Hello everybody, Jake your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw, it's Monday. On Mondays we do tier lists, and on Wednesdays we wear pink.
Hi, can I take your order?
55 burgers, 55 fries, 55 tacos, 55 pies, 55 cokes, 100 tater tots, 100 pizzas, 100 tenders, 100 meatballs, 100 coffees.
Today's tier list is all about high level Pokemon. So this is a tier list based on whether or not a Pokemon is very good high level and if they should be prioritized to get a ton of experience inside of a match. In general, you'll find a lot of carry Pokemon, attackers, all-rounders, speedsters higher on a list like this than supporters, but there are going to be some pretty fun exceptions that you'll see throughout this, so I hope you have a good time with it. By the way, I don't remember who suggested it, but someone suggested this tier list, so thank you very much, because I think this is a pretty fun idea. Let's go through our tiers real quickly here. We have our God tier. We're only going to have one Pokemon in our God tier. We're not friggin' Norse around here. Our S tier. These are Pokemon that do so insanely well when they are high level, and there's usually something sort of special about them that puts them above the rest. We have our A tier. These are Pokemon that need a ton of experience, but once they get it, they are amazing. We have our B tier, which is really cool. We've got our... Oh, no, wait, no, it's not cool. No, it's not cool at all. B tier. We still have the B tier? How? We have our C tier. These are Pokemon that really don't need much experience at all. And then we have our D tier. These are Pokemon that should be running probably experience share. They don't need XP. Cool if you get it, but please leave it to your carry Pokemon. All right, let's just jump right in here with some very good Pokemon. You know what? I'm going to put one right up into our S tier right away, and that is Cinderace. Cinderace is a carry Pokemon, an attacker, and this Pokemon is really, really good once it finally gets its experience. Not only is it really good once it finally gets its experience, but at level, I want to say 14 and 15, it unlocks even more attack speed if you're running a Muscle Band and a Rapid Fire Scarf, which most people are on a Pokemon like this. So at a really high level, this thing is just an absolute monster. Many of the attack damage carries are very, very good at a high level, but Cinderace, I think, is kind of heads and tails above pretty much all of them. We've all seen those matches where a level 15 Cinderace is walking around the Ray Pit and just melting everything away. I think this is a really, really solid Pokemon. Now that we're kind of talking about attackers, let's move on to another very, very good one, and that is going to be Greninja. I think Greninja is also extremely good. Look, higher level Greninja, the better, right? This is why lane Greninja struggles so much inside the game, is because this is a Pokemon you really want to give a ton of experience to so it can get to one of those, you know, big level points, at least 13 by Ray, you know, so you can have a big fight right there. I don't think it's as good as Cinderace at that high of a level. It doesn't seem to have as many huge breakpoints right there, but it does, you know, get some really nice stats. And to be fair, once Pokemon like Greninja, Cinderace, in fact, really any of the carry Pokemon, once they get to like level 14, 15, the big chunks they get in attack stat are really, really, you know, valuable. So of course having a high level Greninja is definitely a benefit. Let's see here. Let's move to, what do we got that would kind of be in our B tier in a similar vein? Let me find an attacker that I think is probably pretty B tier. I'm gonna throw in, I'll throw in, where are you? I'm trying to find you here. I'm gonna throw in Mew. Where is Mew? Mew is right here. I think Mew is a solid Pokemon that could definitely, you know, really benefit from experience. It is an attacker. It helps its stats and all of that. But Mew is kind of good always. You don't need Mew to be a level 15. Obviously, you'd love it, but you really don't need it. Once it's level 12, it's pretty amazing, right? I think it doesn't need too much more than that. Even, you know, once it kind of gets its Unite move. The thing about Mew is it's just so incredibly useful that even without a ton of its experience, it's still a very, very strong Pokemon, and its utility is amazing. Of course, you'd love it to be a high level, but I don't think you necessarily need it. Let's move on to a C tier Pokemon level wise. I would say, who's kind of a good C tier, but not a D tier? This is one of the ones that's a little tricky to figure out, because D tier would be, you know what? Let's just move on to a D tier really quick so I can show you what I mean. A D tier Pokemon is Clefable. So Clefable does not need a lot of experience, does not need a lot of levels. It should be running experience share. You want it to get to level 12, but that's all you really need on this Pokemon. If you leave a match and your Clefable is level 15 and your Greninja is level 12, that's probably very unfortunate for your squad, right? You don't need a lot for this Pokemon. And I think if we're looking at sort of the shades between the two, like a shade into the C tier, kind of in the support category, might be something. Even Hoopa, I think you could probably put down, but Hoopa could benefit a little bit more than Clefable just because you're doing more damage with this Pokemon. But again, as you start to get into the supports, defenders, not all defenders, but some defenders, they kind of hang out down here in the lower tiers. It's a lot of your all-rounders, speedsters, attackers that will hang out in our higher tiers. Cool. Let's move on. Let's do a speedster right here. That would be pretty fun. Let's throw in... You know what? Oh, Leafeon's a good one. I think Leafeon kind of hangs out in the B tier. Of course, you get a lot of experience with this Pokemon because you pick up a lot of KOs, but it gets good. Boom. Level 4, you get your first move, which is amazing. Level 6, you get your next move, Unite move at level 8. Both of your plus moves you get very, very early. While this Pokemon probably will have a ton of experience, and that's great, it doesn't really need it to be amazing. This is one of those Pokemon that's really great early and can continue to carry throughout the match, but you don't need this Pokemon to get a lot of XP. Cool when it has it. Ooh, here's a fun speedster actually. Zeraora. I think Zeraora, this might be the only time you're going to see this Pokemon high on a list until it gets some sort of buff. But Zeraora is actually so experience hungry and really amazing once it gets that experience. It unlocks its final plus move at level 14, which is absolutely insane that this Pokemon is still like that, but it is. Especially if you're running Wild Charge, this is a huge buff to this Pokemon. Zeraora is so experience hungry, but once it gets it, it's so good. That's one of the biggest drawbacks I think for this Pokemon is most of the game I feel like it's barely keeping up with some of the other carries. However, near the end of the game, if you can get it a lot of experience, it's in a very, very solid spot. So Zeraora is a pretty cool one. I would put Zoroark probably into our A tier right here. The thing about Zoroark is its attack stats nuts. So if you can get a lot of experience on Zoroark, you can do pretty well near some of the infights because you can just delete things with a high level Zoroark. It also gets a lot of KOs, so it's easy to get levels on this Pokemon. Very, very solid. I think the big difference for me between Zeraora and Zoroark, between Zeraora and Zoroark, is just that Zeraora needs more, and it can finally get a plus move at level 14. So that's why I'm putting it up into a higher category right here. Ideally, you wouldn't have both of them on the same team, to be fair. You wouldn't really need to be comparing these two. Where do we got some more speedsters here? Absol. Absol's pretty good. Absol could be B or A. It's right in there. Decent, you know, good attack stat. You probably want to get it to level 13-ish. I don't think it has the same priority maybe as Zoroark. I think Zoroark just kind of benefits more from the additional attack. But Absol, you know, it's a carry Pokemon, pretty solid, and you could feed it a lot of experience. I think Absol just struggles a little bit in this meta in general. Talonflame is another one. Talonflame I'd probably put here into the B tier as well. You can do a lot with Talonflame basically as soon as you get your level 7. However, its level 13 does have a really nice spike in Fly. Fly gets the ability to knock up opponents. I wonder if maybe I'm going to edge it into the A tier just because of that. Because Fly at level 13 is really, really valuable. I think I am. I think I'm going to move it into the A tier for that reason. And let's continue. We can continue to bounce around a little bit for fun here. Glaceon. Glaceon's a really solid B. For sure. Doesn't need a lot of experience. It's great at 6, basically. It gets a really nice bonus at 10, and then it gets another at 12. It's right in there with the Eevees. In fact, we can just plop the Eevees right down here. Sylveon gets its, you know, plus move at 12 for its shield, which is really nice if you're running Hyper Voice, Calm Mind. We've got Espeon as well. Espeon, to me, if I had to pick one of the Eevees to be higher than the others, it's probably Espeon. It just feels like you get a little more value out of it being a high level Pokemon. I don't even know why. You know, Glaceon you do too. Honestly, all the Eevees kind of hang out here. They just don't need a lot of experience to be amazing. They really don't. They're very, very good. Umbreon is a good C tier for sure. Umbreon you could get a lot of XP on. You're going to get some crazy KOs. It will make it bulkier. You don't need much at all. I think you can run experience share on this Pokemon as well. Umbreon is just... it's so good, and it doesn't even need experience, which feels, I mean, incredibly cruel, right? Like, what an insane Pokemon. Umbreon is so good right now. So there are Eevees hanging out on the board here. I think that's a pretty reasonable place for all of them. In general, their early experience lead can kind of put them here, but because all of these can carry to a different degree, I think a B tier place is a good place for the rest of the Eevees right here. You know, another one who kind of feels C tier to me is Pikachu. Pikachu, more and more, I feel like you really don't need a lot of levels with this Pokemon. It's a support attacker, basically. It stuns, it displaces enemies, it has a Unite move a lot. You can definitely carry games with it, but it also feels like a Pokemon that doesn't even need to hit its level 13 to be extremely valuable later in the match. So I would put it probably down here in the C tier. Like, it could get a lot of experience, but it doesn't need a huge amount for sure. Let's see who else we've got here. Ooh, let's do a fun one. Let's do a fun one like Blastoise. Blastoise, well, I almost put it in the God tier. I even might put it in the God tier. Blastoise's level 13 with the Rapid Spin build is amazing. With Surf, it gives you a big shield. Your Unite move does insane damage. Like, Blastoise hitting that big level 13 is so important. I feel like this Pokemon is S tier in importance of getting it experience, for sure. Which is why it's so heartbreaking when a Wartortle sits as a Wartortle for so long. Blastoise is so good once it gets its experience, especially, again, the Rapid Strike build. Rapid Strike. I'm talking about her Shifu right here. The Rapid Spin build. In fact, I'm going to pull it up really quick on Unite DB. An amazing resource for Pokemon Unite. I just want to give you the exact stat increase. When you are level 13 with Blastoise, with base stats, and you use your Rapid Spin, you get an additional 420 defense and special defense. It's such a huge boost. It's like, it's crazy good. Blastoise, I feel like, is crazy good with levels and experience. Oh, here's another big one. Tyranitar. Tyranitar might be S. It might be S. Here's the thing with T-Tar. I don't think T-Tar is in an S tier position in the game right now, but it is so experience hungry, and it finally gets good once it gets experience. Part of me thinks it's still in the A tier just because, I mean, I don't know. I just don't love Tyranitar right now, but I think I have to put it in the S tier because without experience, this thing is a dead weight on your team. But with some experience, Tyranitar is actually pretty dang good, especially if you can set up some good fights with it. So I kind of feel like I have to put it into our S tier right here. It's really just how the Pokemon is built, basically. It is built to be an experience-hungry monster that finally gets going and does a lot as the match moves on. Let's move into... let's pop around with some all-rounders here. Why not? Let's see. Zarina. Zarina is a carry Pokemon. You definitely want it to be a high level, but it gets its moves pretty early. Zarina gets both of its plus moves at level 10 and then 12, I want to say, and it also gets, you know, good at level 6. You get your combos at that point. You will have a high-level Zarina if the Zarina is playing well. But I don't think this Pokemon is as experience hungry as some. It's cool that even if you get kind of shut down with this Pokemon, you're still very viable at level 12 with Zarina, even though Zarina is struggling inside the game right now. I would say that a Pokemon like, where are you, Charizard? Charizard kind of feels like this as well. The thing about Charizard is it kind of just needs level 9, right? It is great to be a level 15 Char, don't get me wrong. You do get lifesteal increase at level 13, which is pretty cool. But I think in general, this Pokemon doesn't feel as experience hungry after you evolve. Once you evolve, I feel like Char is kind of useful. And of course, more experience equals better. That could be, you know, a good takeaway from this video. More experience equals better. I think that's an important way to look at it. But I think Char is fine. Yeah. It's kind of hanging out in here. You maybe could move it up a tier, but it's kind of hanging out in here. Good with more experience, though. Ooh, here's a fun one. Moving away from our all-rounders here. Let's talk about Chandelure. Chandelure's level 13 is really solid. You get 25% cooldown reduction up from, I want to say, 15. And you also get your plus move on either Imprison or Poltergeist. So I think that's a huge breakpoint for this Pokemon. A level 13 Chandelure, very, very powerful. Pretty necessary to, you know, be a really effective Shandy late game. I would say an A tier choice for sure. You definitely want to feed this thing a lot of experience. Let's see another fun one. Ooh, here's a fun one. Delphox. I think Delphox is experience hungry, and it has 2 massive breakpoints. I think both its level 11 and 13 are amazing, and it farms so incredibly well. You also, you know, once you get those high levels, your damage output's pretty incredible. You can get your Unite move back really, really fast. You can have 2 Unite moves essentially over the course of a Rayquaza fight. I think Delphox is a real monster at high levels, and its outplay potential is super, super big. It's either high A or S tier for me. I think Delphox is very experience hungry and so good when it gets it, like so good. Oh, here's another really good one. This one almost makes it S. Machamp. I'm wondering if this is S. Here's the thing about Machamp. Especially if you're running the cross chop build. If you're running cross chop, once you hit level 13, you get these stacks of attack bonus just by doing basic attacks. You get like 40 stacks of attack bonus just by doing basic attacks. It's a huge increase to your attack stat, and it makes your Unite move and all of your moves really, really powerful. Machamp is definitely, like, when I look at Zarina, Charizard, you want your Machamp to be out of all of those Pokemon, I would want it to be a higher level for sure. It just gets so much out of that plus move at level 13. I think Machamp is an A tier choice for me for sure. Ooh, Azumarill. Azumarill's B. Probably B. You just need 12. You just need level 12 on this Pokemon. And the thing about Azumarill is it's amazing early, right? Of course, lots of experience equals good. I think we did the math on that earlier. I think we've actually fully covered the math on that. But Azumarill's whole thing is it dominates early and mid, you know? And as the game moves on, if you keep, you know, that momentum, you're doing very, very well. This season, by the way, my Azumarill has been so good. It's been one of my favorite things to play all season. I love it. All right, let's see. Who do we want to talk about next? I want to talk about Cramorant. Cramorant's a weird one. Now, the Surf Hurricane build, not as much, but the Dive Air Slash build, I think, is pretty experience hungry. And once you get it, you get your Air Slash plus, you get Dive plus. You're actually extremely solid. I think you kind of need level 13 on this Pokemon as best you can. Surf Hurricane's sort of a different story. I like that build. And of course, more damage equals yes, as we know. But I do think this one's pretty experience hungry with Dive Air Slash, and it really benefits it. I think A is a super fair place to put this Pokemon. Let's see. Where's some ones in our lower tier? Blissey. I think Blissey can hang out in our Decidueye Memorial tier. You do not need much experience at all for this Pokemon. It should be running experience share. It's good without it. You know, you don't need a ton of experience on it. Sableye is another one. Sableye, you could kind of move up one tier, but just put EXP share on it. EXP share? Just put EXP share on it. And make sure that this Pokemon is around all of the fights so you can, you know, stun your opponents in super annoying ways. You never need a super high level Sableye. That is not the whole point of this Pokemon at all. Ooh, here's a big one. You know, this one, I'm putting Buzzwole A. It's almost S. Here's the thing, though. Its level 11 is the huge break point for this Pokemon, because that's when it gets its superpower upgrade where you reset your muscle gauge, or you fill your muscle gauge and it resets the move right away. That's just insane. So I would say this Pokemon probably is A. It doesn't do anything as it gets higher that I feel like is absolutely necessary, but you could definitely see a very, very high level Buzzwole doing very well. But its level 11 is just so brutal that you need to feed this thing some experience. Greedent. Greedent's kind of middle of the road here. Greedent's a weird one. You could maybe even move it to C, but you know, you also want your defenders to be a little bulky. I think you'll get the experience with this thing just because you're running around the map doing weird stuff. But you don't need to be a level 15 Greedent. That's just, it's something your team doesn't need to see. Look, it's cool, but your team doesn't need to see it. Slowbro. Slowbro's kind of in the same boat. It's like a C or a B-ish. You know, a lot of your defenders, I'm going to put Tree right here too. I'm going to put Mammo right here too. Maybe even Greedent. Maybe Greedent moves down one. The only interesting thing about Greedent is it's sort of in the enemy's face a little bit more in some of the fights, so a little extra HP might be beneficial. I don't know, though. You could put a lot of these defenders down here into our C tier. Snorlax for sure, even though it does get a plus move pretty late. It has a level 13 plus move. I think Goodra might be the most experience hungry out of the group. I'm going to move Greedent down, I think. I think Goodra might be the most experience hungry out of this group that I'm putting up right here. And the reason is its level 13 gives it that goo on either one of its moves, which I think is really valuable. And just Goodra just feels like a super experience hungry Pokemon in general. Its early game is pretty weak. Lapras is... I'm actually not sure on Lapras. Let me take a look at Lapras really quick. What? Where would I put... Because Lapras feels kind of mid to me for needing experience. However, it's pretty powerful. Does it get any nice breakpoints as it goes up? Not really even. No, I think it's kind of mid. Because it gets a move at 13. I guess you get a bigger shield on your Bubble Beam. I don't know. I think you can put Lapras right here. It's fine without a ton of experience. In fact, I often run EXP Share on it, and I think it's great. Crustle, sort of same thing. A lot of our defenders, I feel like this is pretty fair. They just don't need a lot of experience to get great. They really, really don't. There are a few that would get a nice breakpoint at level 13, but I'm not too stressed about it. I'm going to say the same thing for Wiggly. Wiggly might even be in some ways lower than this whole group for experience needed on this Pokemon. Cool if you get it, fine if you don't. That's most of our defenders right here. Blastoise, a big exception for me. Other than that, I really don't know if a lot of them need that much. You know, there's just something about Greedent. I think I want to put it B. Sorry. I want to put it B. Doesn't it get Belch, like an increased Belch damage at level 13 as well? I feel like Greedent, you always get this amount of experience. Though. It is. It's increased Belch or Bullet Seed damage. Yeah, I'm going to put it back into our B tier. I think that's fair. Okay, cool. Moving on to our next Pokemon to look at here. Who do we want to talk? Oh, here's an interesting supporter. Mime, I think, is probably up here in the B tier. It's a much more reasonable Pokemon to get experience to, especially if you're running Power Swap. So with Barrier, not as much. But with Power Swap, the level 13 gives increased effectiveness to your allies, you know, increasing their attack and special attack damage. I think that's a pretty actually big breakpoint for this Pokemon. So I would right now say Mime is one of the only supporters that kind of needs experience funneled into it. Another one is LD, just because it can get its plus move for its other move at level 13. You often don't need this, but if I'm looking at all of them, this is the one I would put a little higher than the rest, would be these two. Comfey is in the Decidueye Memorial tier. You don't need experience on this Pokemon at all. If you're not running experience share on Comfey, you're actually kind of griefing, I think, because giving it, like, being on an ally and splitting experience with them without EXP share is, in a way, you're like leeching experience away from a much more important Pokemon that could use it a lot better. Okay, Lucario. Lucario is probably B. It's good. You'll get experience with it. I don't think it's as valuable as Machamp or Buzzwole when it comes to getting a lot of experience. Usually Lucario is dominating early in a lot of matches. You could probably say that if you're running extreme speed, experience is more valuable, but I think this is a pretty fair place for this Pokemon. And even though you get a high amount of experience, I feel like having a level 15 Lucario is not the same as having a level 15 a lot of these other Pokemon. Let's talk about one right here that's really good. Garchomp. High level Garchomp, really good. Your attack stats, you know, getting kind of beefy at that point. Your attack speed feels incredibly powerful. I think a high level Garchomp is a very, very solid Pokemon as well. Scissor Scyther. Both of these feel about B to me. Good with experience, but not 100% necessary, right? Like good, but not the end of the world. I think both Scissor and Scyther will get a ton of experience and definitely will benefit from it, but I would say they're both all right. They kind of hang out in this B tier. A lot of good Pokemon in this B tier for me, for sure. Zacian. Zacian, I would say, is probably A. It might even be S. The thing about Zacian is it's good from second one of the match, and it's good all the way through. Its attack stat's insane. It might be S, honestly. Here's the thing about Zacian. I don't love that it's this way, but this Pokemon's attack stat, HP, like all of its stats are so good. They're giving this thing a lot of experience. I mean, it's already a monster. I think it's pretty fair. Here's a weird one. I'm going to put Gengar in my A tier. I almost put it S. You know what? I think I'm actually going to put it S. So here's my thought process with Gengar. A low-level Gengar is one of the worst things you could possibly have in the game. However, if you are an over-leveled Gengar, whether you're running Hex or you're running Dream Eater, you have the ability to rack up massive KOs. You need that level advantage, especially if you're running Shadow Ball Dream Eater. You need that level advantage to be able to pick up these KOs. Otherwise, Gengar is kind of useless, you know? You have to be able to delete something in a combo. If you can delete something in a combo, you can delete another and another and another. If you can't delete something in a combo, you're just such an ineffective Pokemon. In that sense, it really is like S tier if it's high level wise in a match. I really do think so. That's about right for me. Dodrio, very solid. A tier. Yeah, because its level 13 is very good, especially if you're running agility. I think it's a pretty solid choice for an A tier. It's like, you know, it carries as a speedster. You need it to do a lot of damage, especially if, you know, once you get into some of these big fights. So I think that's a pretty solid place for this Pokemon. I would say Zoroark is more of a high-level monster in some ways to me. Dodrio is one of those weird ones where it's just kind of always good and always annoying. Even if you enter the, you know, final fight at like level 12, you could still do some really good stuff with it, but high-level Dodrio helps a lot. Decidueye is probably A. It's probably A. Here's the thing about Decidueye. Its arrows do an insane amount of damage, and once it gets to like level 14 and 15, it gets almost, it's like 40 or something attack in those levels, like 40 attack stat, like the equivalent of stacking an attack weight 3 times or something like that about. So that's pretty big. And when its arrows do 450% or whatever of your attack stat, every little bit of attack helps. So you've got the arrows do more with your attack stat. They do more to enemies that are low HP, and they do more to distant enemies. Like, you're raining in insane amounts of damage if you're a high-level Decidueye. So I think it's a pretty solid Pokemon to be up here in our A tier. Another pretty solid one, I would say, is probably Dragonite. Dragonite gets the nice increase to its Hyper Beam at level 13, where you take less damage while you're charging it, which allows you to get some really, really big secures with it. And I think it also gets a lifesteal increase at this point. Dragonite's doing pretty well in the meta right now, too. So this would be a, you know, kind of a cool time to be a fan of Dragonite, I would say. Definitely experience hungry early as well, which is why you often see it in the central area. I'm very curious, if you got to this point in the video, let me know in the comments, do you think we're going to see professional teams picking up Dragonite now that it got buffed? I'm really curious to see if they actually bring it into competitive play. Let me know what you think in the comments about that. Just something I've been thinking about. Okay, we got our Urshifus right here. I think both are really good with experience. I think for whatever it's worth, I would put, I think, Single Strike a little bit above Rapid Strike. Rapid Strike feels like it's a little better early, and Single Strike feels like it's a little better late. Both of them, though, are going to end the game with a decent amount of XP, and both of them do very well with it. If I had to split them again, I would say Single Strike a little better. I think Throat Chop's plus move is a little stronger. It lets you reset and use the move a little bit more than Liquidation's plus move. But in general, I think both are really, really strong at high level, which is what we're looking at right here. Ooh, Venusaur. Venusaur, I think, is one of the best high-level Pokemon in the game. It's incredible. Its level 13 is insane. We've all seen the builds that professional teams have used around the sort of Giga Drain Petal Dance, Protect the President comp with Venusaur. I think it's one of the best level 13s in the game. And if you're running Solar Beam, that level 13, like the cooldown reduction on Solar Beam at level 13 is so good. A9 pretty dang good, high level, and you're probably gonna get it. You could honestly put this maybe in the B tier just because you're fine without the XP, but it's honestly really solid right now. I would probably put it right here with Guardy. If I had to split the two, I would probably put Alolan Ninetales lower into our B tier, but Alolan Ninetales is just in such a strong spot in the game right now. You're gonna get a lot of experience, and your burst is crazy. Basically, you're gonna head into that final fight, you're going to Blizzard Avalanche into your Unite move, and you could delete multiple Pokemon on the enemy team at once. The higher level, the easier that is to do. And then it also gets a pretty good plus on one of its moves. I can't remember if it's its earlier plus or its later plus. Let me take a look here. Its level 11 is the Avalanche plus. Yeah, its level 13 is the Blizzard plus. And I think that's a really, really solid move. You've just got more damage on it. So I would say A tier is a really fair place for this Pokemon. Duraludon. I kind of think Duraludon's almost B. Look, it's great. Well, maybe it's A. Its attack stat's actually kind of nuts, now that I think about it. Its attack stat is really nutty from what I remember. And it's just a super strong carry in general. I think every level it gets, like, let me give you an example of Duraludon's attack stat, like how much it goes up right here as it gets to a higher level. So it's level 13. Let's do its level 14 to 15. It's 45 attack every time. So every single auto attack you're doing is increasing, all the moves that you're using. It's pretty solid. And oh, it gets that lifesteal upgrade. That's right. It gets a lifesteal upgrade at level 13 too, which just makes it more formidable in some of these fights. Again, if you're curious where I'm looking at a lot of these stats, unitedb.com. They're a great website to look at a lot of this stuff. Sword is weird because I don't even know if Sword needs that high of a level. I honestly think Sword's probably closer to a B tier for me. Let me think about Aegislash. Yeah, for me, I think I would put Aegislash maybe closer to our B tier right here. It's not that it isn't great with more experience, but I don't know if you need its level 13 upgrade as much as you need its level 11 upgrade, and its boosteds are already doing max HP damage, so while it's great to be a high level, it's also pretty awesome at kind of like that mid-range point as well. And then we have Dragapult that I would probably put up into our A tier. And I think the big reason I would put Dragapult up into our A tier right here is because of its increase in damage. Just its attack stat going up is really, really solid for this Pokemon. I think it also gets a nice plus point. I would say if I had to put one a little lower than the others, it might be Dragapult, but it's hard to say that you wouldn't want any of these 80 carries to just be a super, super high level. And now it's time to talk about our God tier Pokemon, our Pokemon that is the best once it gets the most experience. I honestly think it's Venusaur. I think Venusaur's a weird Pokemon, but I think Venusaur's level 13 on both of its builds are so incredibly good. I think Petal Dance, Giga Drain's level 13 is nuts, and I think the same thing is true for Solar Beam. This is probably the Pokemon that when I'm doing commentary for Pokemon Unite, I think this is the Pokemon that we often talk about the most as having like the most important level, 13 or whatever inside the game. I'm trying to think if anything really even compares to Venusaur right here. Blastoise, very, very good. Tyranitar also up there. In some ways, Gengar, one of the best like high-level Pokemon in the game. Cinderace, I really think is amazing. Like the attack speed on Cinderace is so good. But, this cut off my Decidueye Memorial tier. Sorry, everybody. 1 second here. I don't want to lose our Decidueye Memorial tier. And again, when you're looking down here at these lower Pokemon, it's not that they're bad or anything like that. It's just that they don't need that much experience to be amazing. And when I'm thinking of this, I'm thinking of Pokemon that need the experience, and once they get it, They're absolute monsters. Let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think I got right? What do you think I got wrong? As always, feel free to, disagree with each other or things like that. Let's all just be cool to each other as well. There are a lot of places online to be weird. Let's find a place like this to be nice to each other. And now, a little bit of this. I said we weren't going to be friggin' Norse around here, but we are. Wigglytuff and Aegislash are without question the most devastating Pokemon when they have a ton of experience. And then there are a lot of Pokemon you would expect to be in our lower tiers. Charizard's useless. Azumarill, Goodra, they don't need experience at all. The experience-hungry monsters definitely sit atop the board there. Aegislash and Wigglytuff. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the suggestion for a tier list, whoever did it. If it was you, let me know in the comments. And if you have some other ideas, let me know as well. Love you guys. See you soon.